Hey, welcome back. It's Jessi. We are finishing up today my library reading vlog. So if you haven't seen it already, check out part one and enjoy the rest of my reactions here. For a moment while I eat my spoonful of peanut butter, because I've had a headache and sometimes a little bit of sugar helps. Anyway, I am about halfway through The Grace of Kings now. Literally, I don't know if I said this in the last clip, but every time I say The Grace of Kings, my mind goes to The Clash of Kings. Let's see. Honestly, my main takeaway reading this book so far is I like it, and that's giving me a weird reader identity crisis, because here's the thing. It's political fantasy, and it's a massive war, and those are things I don't like. I don't like political fantasy. I don't like just a big nebulous war where I'm not even sure who I'm rooting for. I don't like that. Although, here it's pretty like there is the good side or the better side. But even so, it's like complicated. Anyway. So that's really weird, but like the style is so interestingly done where there are so many perspectives that it's almost not about the characters. It's about this, I don't want to use the word story because it is a story, but it's almost like a history. It's like if you were to read like, I haven't read the Iliad. I was going to say it's like the Iliad, but I haven't read that, so I don't know. But it's almost like reading a history of this war, or like a mythology of this realm, because it's such a bird's eye view of everything, right? And you get these moments where you zoom in on some of the main characters, but you're getting a little bit of everything. You know a little bit of everyone's motivations. You know a little bit of everything that's happening, and that just makes it feel really interesting. And that's making me really enjoy this. There's some really clever elements to this. There's these gods, like I said, there's 7 nations within this island grouping, and each one has their like god. And so we get these moments with the gods like talking to each other, and those are really, really just delightful. But one of the things that's coming up is how like there is so much even beyond the gods' controls, and how you can surprise even the gods, and that I really enjoy and I think is really clever. And there are moments where I kind of forget. I have to like remind myself this is a library book because there's some really beautiful writing in here that I'd love to like highlight. The one line I have, what is fate but coincidences in retrospect, which is beautiful. But there's all these long sections where there's like a story being told, or parables within the story itself that are just so brilliantly done. And there's moments it's a little heavy-handed, like when they're fighting, there's a scene where they're fighting and the general in the one army starts making fun of the general in the other army, trying to draw him out, you know, by calling him a girl and insulting him and being like, oh yes, you're cowardly like a woman. And one of the other men kind of speaks up and he's like, women aren't cowardly, and goes on this long, beautiful speech that legitimately made my eyes water about like all the bravery of the women he's known. And it's like, sure, that's not subtle, but I really like it. So I'm really enjoying this book. I mean, let's see, I'm 320 some pages into it, so that's the length of David Mogo in like less than a week. It's good. It's really good. And I guess I got myself roped into another unfinished epic fantasy series, so oh well. Anyway, I'm not gonna update you again until I finish this, but it's good. I'm really liking it. So here's hoping there's nothing in my teeth. I finished The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu, which means that can come out. well, okay, I haven't read the glossary yet, if that matters, but I liked this a lot more than I thought I would. To kind of bury the lead a little, I gave this 4.25 out of 5, which is insanely high for something I didn't even expect to like in the first place. I'm gonna put it down because it crinkles too much. Clearly I have no idea what to say. I'm gonna start at the end, I guess. The ending of this was really interesting, and it leaves a lot of little holes open for this rest of this series. But the thing is, I don't know if I want to read the rest of the series because I kind of like where it ended. It ended at this point where, like, yeah, there's some things we don't know how they're going to work out in the future, and there's these little seeds of where things might go wrong or things might change. But it's not like... But everything that was established in this book kind of got wrapped up. Not entirely, but mostly. And so I feel like this book can be read as a self-contained book, and I'm not sure I want to continue the series because I like where this one ended. So if you have read, what is this, the Dandelion Dynasty? If you've read the Dandelion Dynasty, let me know below if the rest of the series is worth it, because I think the 4th and final book comes out next year. So just, I don't know, give me, if you've read it, let me know. I'm doing a lot of stuff with my hands now. There was a part in the middle section that kind of I didn't like as much because here's the thing. It relied on miscommunication. The conflict was built on miscommunication. But the miscommunication was intentionally orchestrated, and like the reason it couldn't be resolved simply through just like a conversation really, really made sense. But it still kind of felt a little contrived despite that. Like it didn't feel contrived. I don't think that's the right word. It just was frustrating. It was like, come on, can't you just sit down and talk it out? And like I knew they couldn't. But once it kind of gets out of that a little bit, not completely, because that really does shape the rest of the book, but like it gets out of it a little bit and moves away from it. You get to a point where it's like, okay, now there's no going back. Even a conversation, if you could have a conversation, wouldn't solve this. Then it picked back up again. And then the other problem I had was towards the end, it started to get a little repetitive with the battles, and I kind of zoned out a little bit, but like, that's fine. I do think there's some really interesting stuff that's done throughout this to keep the battles exciting, but it got a little much at the end. Yeah, that's really it. I think there's some really interesting stuff. I think one of the big pluses for me when I read epic fantasy is always when you get some really beautifully highlighted female characters, women, and there's some really great ones in this series. Maybe not enough, and I don't love how they're all ultimately related to a man in some way, but pretty good. But there was also, I think, am I misremembering? I feel like there was casually a gay character too. Like one guy was talking about how somebody was courting another man. I think it was very brief, but we'll take it. So it's good. Yeah. So overall, I enjoyed this. I really liked it. I would really recommend it. If it's compared to Game of Thrones, but to me, I think this is much better. It does have, I wouldn't say it has the same kind of shock value of killing characters off, because I never was like shocked when a character died, but characters do die a lot in this. And it is political, and it is this like war and who's right, who's wrong kind of shifts throughout the book, and sometimes kind of feels like everybody's wrong. So I guess in that sense, Game of Thrones-esque, Song of Ice and Fire-esque, but really this felt just a lot better. My favorite thing though is definitely the interactions of the gods, and there's some lines in here that I absolutely, what was one towards the end that I highlighted, was not highlighted because it's a library book, but oh, there are families you're born into and families you make out of those you love. And I was like, oh. But my favorite part was definitely the gods interacting with each other and having their discussions where like they aren't really allowed to influence things overly much, but they do what they can, and they try, and then they get frustrated with humans for doing something different from what they wanted them to, and that was definitely my favorite part of this. Anyway, I think I've said enough about this. feel like there was a thought there in the middle while I was like talking about something, but I don't remember it. And then next on my list, well, this is my copy, but will be A Darker Shade of Magic by V. Schwab. This is my copy, the library copy's up there. I don't know which one I'll actually read from because I don't really know if there's a reason to read one or the other, but this will be the next one that I read. Not much to show in this vlog because I don't go anywhere or do anything. So in an attempt to make this interesting, I'm filming from a different location in my apartment, but too bad the backdrop then is just a blank white wall. Anyway, halfway through Darker Shade of Magic, I'm going to move a little closer. Halfway through it, so far I'm kind of mixed on it. The concept is definitely interesting, and that's probably why that's what everybody talks about when they talk about this book. It's a lot of, oh, it's these 4 different Londons. Because there's not a lot of plot. The plot like just started. Maybe I'll stand. Nope. Maybe I'll sit. One of these days I will buy a tripod, I promise. That's better. Alright, whatever. Anyway. But it's just, that's all it is. Like, the plot has only just started and I'm halfway through it, you know? And that's a little slow for me, for a plot to get going. The characters are mostly good. They're a little bit one-dimensional. Not too bad. Like, there's enough to get attached to here. My biggest problem so far is that Kel seems like he's much older than he is, and Lyra? That's not right. Lila, it seems like she's much younger than she is. So Lila's supposed to be 19, but she acts like a more YA protagonist. She acts like 16, maybe 17. Meanwhile, Kel is supposed to only be a couple of years older than Lila, but he seems to act middle-aged, I swear. Like, they don't act like these people, but they're reminiscent to me of Wax and Marise in the second Mistborn series. Oh, and it's a similar thing with Marise supposed to be like college age, but she acts like a teenager, and Wax and that is supposed to be 30s, but he acts like he's in his like 40s or 50s. I don't know. So that's a disconnect I'm having here. Plot-wise, I guess as far outside of the characters, 2 things are still bothering me. One is that the characters are a little reactive. In particular, Kel only just finally made a decision, like himself. It wasn't like somebody did something and forced his hand. It wasn't being pushed into this. This is like the first time it seems like he's made a decision and acted proactively. And I'm realizing the older I get, or the more experience in reading I get, the more I get frustrated with reactive protagonists. I want a protagonist that is doing things, and that might cause the conflict. And I think here there's this implication that Kel's actions previously have caused this issue, but it's stuff that happened before the story started, so there's no way for me to, like, you know? And then the other thing is just a lot of telling. A lot of telling. Like, the big concept here is there are 4 Londons. Kel's named them gray, red, white, and black. And hundreds of years ago, all of these were interconnected. People could travel to and from them. Magic flowed freely between them until magic destroyed Black London. Basically, it just kind of became all-consuming, and then the doors between them were closed. And now only certain people can travel between them. I wish that had been shown as like a prologue. I think if we had like a prologue scene of the chaos of Black London, or the all-consumingness of the, random people, like a prologue like that, something like the Wheel of Time Dragonmount prologue, or the opening scene of Atlantis, Disney's Atlantis, something like that to establish that. rather than, I'm pretty sure there's 3 separate times that story is explained. And it's always explained slightly differently with varying amounts of detail, but like, I wish it had been shown to me instead of explained to me 3 times. Or like, it doesn't have to be explained every time. When, you know, it gets explained later, it could, instead of having a character actually explain it, just be like, and then I told her, or and then he told her, whatever. I don't think it needed to be explained every time. And there is additional details that we didn't know before, but it's like, why didn't we know that before? And it's kind of because the details that they reveal later would have made a reveal that happened not a reveal. So it's like, the first time this Black London thing got explained, if they had explained all of this, an event that happened here wouldn't have surprised the reader. But now that we know that, here, we're going to give you this additional information, and that to me is kind of cheap. Because how come that wasn't explained here, but it was explained here, you know? But this is coming off really negative, but I am enjoying this. I mean, I'm tearing through this incredibly quickly, so I don't know. It's not bad. I don't know. I think I was expecting something more for how hyped this is. This is a continual problem I have where overhyped books let me down because I'm expecting them to be something insanely good because everybody loves them, and then they're just good. And good is fine. There's nothing wrong with being good. It's just, it kind of ends up letting me down a little. But I'm going to keep reading this. Hi. Okay. Darker Shade of Magic, that's what this is called. I finished it. I think it's a good book, but it's clearly something that I think has been really, really, really overhyped. I don't think it's bad. I think it's good. I gave it a 3.78, 3.7, something in there, rounded to 3.75, but it's good. It's not fantastic. It's not amazing. It's good. Some of the problems I had with it, I don't remember what I said in the first clip because that was forever ago. But some of the things that I didn't like about this, I do Lyra, that doesn't sound right. That's the chick from Lila. It's Lila. Did get better as it went on. I mean, she was always good. I actually always enjoyed her character. It's just she acted more like an actual 19-year-old as the book went on, which the more I think about that, the more I'm unsure whether that's she was actually acting like a 15-year-old or whether it was like, I'm so used to 15-year-old YA protagonists acting more mature than they are. More capable, not more mature, that's a better word for it. That's why I interpreted it that way. I don't know, but she got better as it went on. A lot of showing not telling, telling not showing, which I talked about. And a lot of giving us information just as we need it. Or right after there would be a twist or something unexpected would happen, and then right after that we would be provided with the information that would have stopped that from being a twist, but in a way that's like, we should have had this information already, you know? Yeah, I think that really covers it. The second half was definitely better. It goes really fast, but I'm kind of in the same position as I was with The Grace of Kings, where I don't know if I want to continue with this trilogy because this feels very self-sustained and I didn't love it. So kind of let me know in the comments below, do you think the rest of the trilogy is better so it's worth continuing, or does it stay on this level? Because if it's this quality the whole time, I don't think it's really worth it. But I definitely do want to try some more V.E. Schwab, Victoria, I don't know what her middle name is, Schwab. I have Addie LaRue on my list, and I have for a while because one of my friends was like, this is fantastic. So that's high priority, but I want to try more of her things. But it wasn't bad. It was just less good than I was expecting. Next up on my list, though, will be Ascension. I am taking a little bit of a break from this because I need to read some books for work, which is not going well. Maybe I'll make a whole rant review. I might make a whole rant review for this one book I'm reading for work. Anyway, which I never do, but I really hate this book. But this will be the next one, and this is about lesbians in space, I think. It's about an engineer that sneaks aboard a ship and wants to be so useful they won't kick her off. and also something about lesbians. Okay, I'm gonna go and not read this right away, but soon. I got caught in a torrential downpour on my walk back from the metro today after work, so that's fun. I'm doing this intentionally from this angle, so maybe you guys can hear the rain a little bit. But also, my power's out, so I have literally no choice but to read, because what else am I gonna do without internet? So, I love it. I'm gonna sit and read some of Ascension. I've started it, and I'm enjoying it so far. So, hopefully things get a little bit more exciting soon, but it's a good start. Great characters. Good morning. We're gonna have a very quick, very quiet update on Ascension, because it is 6 in the morning. I'm liking it. I'm not quite halfway through it, but by the time I get home from work, I'll be well past halfway through it, so I figured I'd update now. And I'm liking it. It does have a lot of the Wayfarer vibes, but it's much less happy-go-lucky and wholesome. There is a lot more conflict between the members of the crew, between planets. It's really interesting. That's not too loud. This footage might just be useless. Anyway, the whole concept here is that there was like this interdimensional species of aliens from like an entirely different universe that came and like are colonizing, largely through things like gentrification and bringing resources that everybody needs, but can only get there from their dimension. And our main character, Lana, has a chronic illness, which I was not expecting. There's a lot of chronic illness rep in this, which wasn't in the description that I remembered, so that's something. And this place has a cure, but it's really expensive, and she's working towards it, and she kind of gets this opportunity when this ship lands in her mechanic shop, but looking for her sister, and she's the only one that knows where her sister is. So it's interesting, but I think right now my vibe is, if you were one of those people leaving 1-star reviews on Wayfair on Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, to be like, this is too nice, where are the angry people? This would be for you. Also, you know, space lesbians. That might be a keyword for me. Space lesbians. I like it. I finished Ascension. I really liked it, actually. Well, not actually, like, that's not surprising. I thought I would like it, but it's complicated. Oh, that's loud. Yeah, complicated is definitely the word for it. Oh boy. There's just so much that ends up going on here. Like, it starts out as kind of a fluffy-ish, I don't think it was ever really fluffy, but, you know, found family, traveling space type thing, and then it gets complicated. It complicated family dynamics, complicated alternate reality stuff, very complicated relationship dynamics that are so good. It's fantastic. Yeah, just, oh, wonderful. Definitely trigger warning for eating disorders in this, which I was not expecting. And of course you can always check Storygraph for more, but that would be the one that's like, I guess, the most surprising. Like, you expect sci-fi might have things like death in it, but that one was a little out of nowhere. And again, there's chronic illness in here. But which I can't really talk about whether or not it's handled well. I think it seems to me, as somebody that doesn't have a chronic illness, that it's done well, but definitely something to look up Own Voices reviews of. Really interesting poly rep, and I think it accurately displays the complexities of that, and the for lack of a better word, discomfort of it. Also, talking to some friends about this last weekend, and I was like talking to them, and I was like, yeah, it's really good, it's about lesbians, and then I realized like there's like one male character in this entire book, bless his heart, and that's good. You know, we're not gonna complain about that. Anyway, overall I gave this a 4.25. It got a high rating because it deserves it. The characters are all fantastic. Only really 2.5 of them really go on like a deep like character arc, but it's good, and there's a really fascinating, intricate, twisty plot that I really enjoy, and the setting is fantastic because it's not just a spaceship. The spaceship itself is similar to the Wayfarer series. The spaceship itself is almost a character in and of itself, but also just this world this universe that's been built where there's these alternate realities, and there's one that has come that has this technology that is changing the way everyone interacts with the world. I think really brilliantly done. Like I said, and I said this in the middle clip, this is basically if you liked Wayfarers but wanted something grittier and somehow even gayer, this is it. Really good. So, this is the order I predicted I would like these in. So, from the bottom up, Grace of Kings, David Mogo, Darker Shade of Magic, Binti, and Ascension. Now, according to the ratings they got, this is the order they ended up in, which is literally just the Grace of Kings moved up. I don't know if I totally agree with this. I think in retrospect, Binti had a lot lower impact on me than either Darker Shade of Magic or David Mogo did. So I almost feel like that one should be on the bottom. But again, that one's one that maybe depends a little bit on how the rest of the series goes. I did just start home myself today. Grace of Kings, similarly, I think the rest of the series could have an impact on how much I enjoyed this book. And it still, even afterwards, kind of feels like a high rating, but it deserves it just simply for how beautiful it was. And I might even switch up these. So I think actual, like, long-term enjoyment, how much they'll stick with me, this would probably be a more accurate vibe of them. Anyway, I don't know if there was like a point to this or anything fun. It just was fun. And I think this really shows that librarians can get people. I mean, they easily could have recommended a lot of like well-known stuff. They could have been like, throw in Starsight by Brandon Sanderson and I don't know, whatever. But they didn't. They took time to actually like recommend a variety of things, from something well-known and popular to something I'd wager most of you hadn't even heard of. You know, diverse authors. We have 2 different Asian authors, 2 different African authors, 1 white author, 3 women, 2 men. I don't know about anybody else, but Jacqueline Koyanagi is it talks about in her acknowledgments that she's in a poly relationship. So like that diversity piece that I asked for, they really delivered. This one, but even Binti to a certain extent, fit that Wayfarer vibe I was going for. Having messages and being a little bit deep definitely fits to David Mogo and to the Grace of Kings and to Ascension. There's even some of that in Binti. Honestly, of all of them, A Darker Shade of Magic is probably the furthest from fitting what I asked for. And my guess would be because they wanted at least one safe bet. But I don't know, maybe the rest of the series gets into some of the more complicated stuff that I wanted. But all in all, this was really successful, and I think I will maybe try to do it again next summer, because I enjoyed this and I like supporting my library. According to my library, I'd saved like $68 by getting these from them instead of buying them, so you know, that's cool too. Anyway, I think that's it for me. I'm gonna get going. I hope you all enjoyed this. Question for y'all in the comments. Tell me in the comments about an experience you've had with the library. go for it.
All right.
Love y'all. See you next time. Bye.